Hey everybody, I'm here today to show you how to steer a car when turning. This will be a driving lesson that's geared towards beginner drivers, but by all means, experienced drivers can benefit from this information as well. Now let's get right to it. I'm actually going to get my face out of the frame to give you a full view of the wheel, but listen to my voice because I'll be explaining everything as I demonstrate it. So I'll start off by telling you the basics of steering when turning. First and foremost, when you're steering through a turn, you want to try to have two hands on the wheel as much as possible, as often as possible. Now this isn't always possible because sometimes if you're driving a manual car, you're shifting a gear as you turn, you're downshifting or upshifting, whatever the case is, but you want to try as often as possible to have two hands on the steering wheel. Now, when you have two hands on the wheel, they should be equidistant from the top center of the steering wheel. So here's the top center of the steering wheel. You know, you can imagine it like a clock. Some people like to go to the 10 and 2, the 9 and 3, but you want to basically be anywhere along this sort of zone right here, with both hands being equally spaced from the top center of the wheel. If you can focus on that, you'll be good to go. Whether your hands are here, 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 or here, you know, you'll be able to make the turn properly. The second thing is the actual steering method. Now you can use many different methods to steer, but the two most common ones are by far the hand over hand and the push-pull method. Now for hand over hand, if you have your hands on the wheel like this, one hand is going to be steering the wheel and the other hand is going to go over, grab the wheel, and then one hand's going to go under, over, and so forth, right? That's hand over hand in a nutshell, okay? Now for the push-pull method, what you want to do is you want to basically use one hand to push the wheel and use one hand to pull the wheel. So if you have your hands like this, one hand would be pushing, pulling, sort of like that. You're going to basically be passing the wheel from one hand to the other, okay? Now, I'm going to be using the hand over hand method because that's what I use to steer for the most part. That's what I've been taught to use. But you can use any steering method that you like and that is commonly accepted wherever it is that you are driving, in whatever, you know, city or country, whatever's commonly accepted, that's the one you should be using, along with the one that feels comfortable for you. Now, when you're steering through a turn, you want to try and get the wheel into the position that it needs to be as quickly as possible and hold it there while making minor adjustments. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to get on the road. Let's go ahead and take this lesson right on the road. I have my seatbelt on. We're in drive. This is an automatic car. The parking brake is off. We're going to go ahead and take this driving lesson on the road so I can show you exactly how to steer when turning. Let's go ahead and go around this car right over here. All right. So as you can see right here, we are exiting a parking lot. I'm going to put my right turn signal on. Now, I won't be focusing on the signals, the mirrors, the blind spots, and so forth, the safety checks of the turn, because this is all about steering. So watch as I steer. I'm going to give you one example. I turn the wheel, I hold it here, and then I release it. And I obviously had to turn back because I had oversteered a little bit there, okay? So let's go ahead and do a few turns that are on the road as opposed to out of a parking lot. These will be turns that you regularly take. And what you want to do is, once again, don't oversteer and don't understeer, just like I did. I oversteered right there. You want to avoid doing that, but it does happen from time to time, even with the most experienced drivers. So if you do it, just learn from it. But what you want to do is you want to get the wheel in position and then make the turn while holding the wheel pretty much in that position, and then release the wheel and it should turn back. You might have to assist it back depending on you know, how tight the turn is and so forth, but for the most part, that's how it's done. Now watch how much I'm going to turn the wheel. Left turn signal's on. This car's right over here. I'm going to let this car go ahead, just so that we can take a few extra seconds. As you can see right here, I've done my safety checks. I'm turning the wheel about 75% of a turn, and then I release it. Now that is what I would consider to be a turn that was done very well. I wouldn't say it's a perfect turn because there's always improvements that I can make, but that was a turn that was done very well. Now, the amount that you're gonna have to turn the wheel will depend on so many factors. But watch this, we're gonna make another turn right here. I'll show you a few turns so you can see. Right now we went about 80% of a turn, then I released it. Now you'll see right now, those were turns from a stop, so from a stop sign. This turn right here, I'm gonna roll through it because there's no stop sign. So I have my signal on, I've done my safety checks, we're ready to turn. Check this out. As you can see, I only turned about 65% of a turn for that one. So it all depends on the turn, but generally speaking, for the most part, the majority of turns are going to be within that amount. Now, this is a different type of turn. This is like a roundabout turn. It's within the same street, so it's basically to turn your car around. There's houses lining all around here. So as you can see, I turned a full turn on the steering wheel. So that was a sharper turn, but those are the turns that are outliers in my opinion, because you're not going to encounter many sharp turns. Those are the outliers, okay? So those turns that I just made were all on the same street. That's why I didn't signal. It's just a curve in the road. It's not really a full turn, but this is a stop sign leading into a turn, and this is not an always stop. So I'm going to just make sure that there's no cars coming before I actually proceed forward. Obviously. All right, we're good to go. As you can see, I turned almost a full turn. That was closer to 90%, 95% of a full turn of the wheel. So the amount that you're going to turn the wheel all depends on the sharpness of the turn. Generally speaking, sharper turns are going to require you to turn the wheel a little bit more, okay? Now, I'm using a sort of a makeshift steering method for those turns. I wasn't using hand over hand. I was kind of just passing the wheel along. But that's why I told you, it all depends on what you're comfortable with. I use hand over hand, I would say 95% of the time when I'm driving. But sometimes I just use other steering methods because that's what feels right and that's what works for the type of environment or turn that I'm taking. So taking turns is actually a fairly simple process, and steering through turns is actually a fairly simple process. You want to figure out how much you need to turn the wheel. Now, like I said, sometimes that might be 50% of a turn, sometimes it might be 80, 75%, 100%, like a full turn. It all depends on so many factors, but you want to get your estimates down, and the way to do that is to practice. The more that you can practice, the better off that you'll be at actually, estimating how much to turn the wheel. And once you've learned how to estimate how much to turn the wheel, it's just a matter of turning that wheel and holding it in that position throughout the turn, and then releasing it when you're done. Now, you might oversteer and understeer when you're first learning, and even when you already know how to drive, just like I did right there. Like I said, it's normal. It's completely normal to oversteer and understeer from time to time. But that happens. You want to make sure that you learn from those steering errors and learn how to perfect your steering. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a few more turns right over here in this parking lot. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make an imaginary left-hand turn, right? So I'm over here, I'd make a left-hand turn, just like that, a sharp left-hand turn. Then I would release the wheel. Continue driving straight. Another left-hand turn, release the wheel. And those are very sharp turns, right? So those are the outliers. The majority of the turns that you will make will be, between 50 and 80% of a turn of the wheel. But there are outliers that require you to turn the wheel just a little bit less or a little bit more than 50% or 80%, whatever that range is, right? But that's basically it. In this video, I've shown you how to steer when turning a vehicle. It's a very simple process. The key is your hand positions, 2 hands on the wheel, equidistant from the top center of the wheel. You want to make sure that you're steering using a method that works for you, and you want to make sure that you're able to estimate the amount that you have to turn the wheel. It's those 3 simple things that will allow you to actually do the best job at steering through a turn. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think down below as a comment. What are your tips for steering through a turn? Let me know as a comment down below, and of course be sure to subscribe for more great car and driving videos just like this one. And that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching.